Annabelle. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Gil. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's ZAPMAG special.
In the next 4-part series, we will be discussing teenage sexuality.
Now, problems surrounding teenage sexuality is definitely not something new. Many of the adults we spoke to experienced the same sort of problems as we experience today in their teens.
And that's true, Annabelle, but one must admit that our world today is different from the one that our parents grew up in.
I'd just like to mention that our objectives aren't to preach, but just to inform and share ideas with you guys.
Let's join our panel.
Hi, with us in the studio tonight we have Dr. John Young from America, who is a practicing physician as well as an assistant professor of clinical medicine at the University of West Virginia. Hi and welcome to the studio, John.
Glad to be here.
Great stuff to have you here. Why are you in South Africa, John?
I'm here because the Transvaal Education Department has invited me to come and speak to high school students about teenage sexuality. What they're finding is that teenagers are changing. Women are going through menstruation a lot earlier than their parents. Guys, their voices are changing. They're becoming more macho. I'll let you know that what's happening is normal. Also, talking to teenagers about dating.
Right.
You know, why do you date? How do you date? And also peer pressure. A lot of the information that you all are getting is saying, your peers are saying, hey, if it feels good, do it. There's sexually transmitted diseases out there, but you can practice safe sex. You know, what's going on? And just kind of coming here and talking about that.
And well, tonight on the panel we have Tessa, Dawn, Michelle, and Renee, and yours truly.
You know, I would like to just maybe move in this area of dating. It's the weekend, and you probably all have dates this weekend.
Well,
what do you look for in dating, or why do you date?
well, I think a guy looks for essentially a trophy. He looks for something that he can show his friends. Look, this is my girlfriend. She's popular. She's great at netball. She's the best thing out, and I've got the best girl in the school.
Well, I look for a friend, eh? I mean, I've had so many guy friends all the time. I think I want something different, like, you know, somebody with a different perspective.
No, I mean, why should it be a purely physical thing? You know, why must a girl be a trophy? Why must it be a show thing? Why can't a guy just go out with a girl because he likes her, irrespective of his friends think?
I go out with guys because I want to know people, and my idea is that before I get married, I'd like to have dated at least 30 guys.
And what about the trophy thing? I think that it's just a way for a guy to build up his self-image.
Definitely.
You know?
Inspiration. Well, guys, we found out we found out about our opinions, but we went out and we got some of your views as well.
I date to be closer to women, to get to know them better, to have more companionship with them.
I think it all started at the age of 13 when I suddenly started to notice females.
I haven't really had a boyfriend.
At this point in my life, I really don't mind if I have a relationship for 5 months. It doesn't bother me.
Sometimes, you know, depends on the chick, depends on the girl. No,
Joel for a couple of months. At the moment, I'm not going to get serious. I'm not going to marry her, so it's going to be a Joel for a couple of months.
I think it was actually about 2 years back.
I date because, like, I want to increase my social circle and have more friends, and like to actually practice or learn how to treat a woman, so that by the time I get a wife, I'll know exactly how a woman should be treated.
So now we know some of the opinions of you guys out there. But when we discuss dating, there's so many other things that we need to consider. Like, for example, what do we consider a date?
Yes, Tess, what is your definition of dating?
I think it's when two people arrange to spend some time together to get to know each other. Well, that's what I would like to think it is.
All right.
Peter, really a hot guy, eh?
No, no.
No, I'm sure that's what girls look for in a date.
No,
Surely
Peter, of course, looks come into it. But, you know, certainly, I don't know for anyone else, but for me, personality is definitely the most important.
Let me go back. When should you start dating?
Well, I know I personally started at 12, 13, but I'm not saying that's when it should start. I don't know.
You know,
maybe I'm wrong.
There's a very interesting study done recently, and they looked at those people that started dating different ages. And if you started dating at 12 or 13 years of age, once you were 19, there was about a 90% chance you were already involved sexually.
Really? There's a lot more involved to dating. There's example, your parents are very much involved, and your peer group, that's even worse.
Well, how are your parents involved?
My parents, well, if I bring a guy to my house, my father's going to say, well, you know,
look at him. I don't like him. Or I like this guy. Please see him again. Or,
Should your parents have a say in who you date?
Yeah, I think.
Well, look, another thing they have a say in as well, I know a lot of people, not personally, but they say when you can date and they restrict you, and surely that's going to promote more dating behind the parents' back or something like that, and the kids are going to go about it the wrong way, and they're going to get the wrong attitudes about dating.
No, I disagree. I mean, I think that your parents, you know, they've been through it.
Yeah,
you
the
haven't
advice
been
is very valid.
You know, most of the time your mom and your dad are right, and I think that unless it's completely unreasonable, you should go by what they say.
Let me ask this question. Renee, a lot of people are talking about when you're dating. You know, I date, the only reason I date is to go to bed with a girl. How far should you get involved physically on a date?
Physically? Well, I think the reason why people should start dating is to start getting used to girls, because you only start noticing them. And before you do, you only hang out with guys, so you only know about guys. So you just start learning about girls for one. And the reason why people get into trouble is because they go with all the hype. They go with what their peers are saying. You know?
But another aspect is the fact that when we're dating is actually during the time of puberty, which is such a crucial time in the teenagers' lives. And as John said to us, the puberty is getting younger and younger, and thus dating is, you know, going down the scale. You know, you're having kids dating in like grade 1 and 2. And,
So, but then surely that's why parental restriction should come in.
Yes. And
now, when you're on this date, and you've all alluded to it, you're saying these urges or these desires come. Would you say this is normal?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, girls, first of all, they see this nice macho guy. I mean, he's got muscles, and you think, nice. Well, physically, you do notice the guy. And
All right. Do you act on those urges?
Well, that depends on your level of maturity, surely. It depends on your attitude towards dating, which is going to be influenced by your peers, your parents, and all the other influences that are going to be in your lives.
Definitely. Well, anyway, I started dating when I was about 13, and I've definitely changed a lot since then, both physically and emotionally. So, guys, we've decided to go and find out the facts about what actually happens to your body during puberty.
For those of you wondering where I am, those of you who've watched the program have obviously noticed that I've changed. I'm sure you've also changed. Firstly, I've gone bigger, I'm stronger, and I've got more hair. But let's find out what's happening to us and why. Hi, Doctor.
Hi, Gil.
Maybe we should start off by finding out why these things are occurring to us.
Well, basically your body's trying to adapt for adulthood. And part of your adulthood is your reproductive function, that is to have children. And the changes that occur vary between boys and girls. And essentially, it's triggered off by hormones in the center in your brain. And there's a gland that is like a headquarters, and it sends off hormones that stimulate the rest of your body that bring about changes for these things.
Okay. With the girls, maybe you can tell us what physical changes occur.
Okay. What happens is for girls there are two types of hormones, estrogen and progesterone. And it causes changes, let's start from say top to toe. For hair, it causes more body hair, less body hair, more scalp hair. Girls get more narrow shoulders, they get wider hips, and that's to accommodate later the birth of a baby. Then as you move down, obviously breasts develop, and that is obviously to breastfeed children. The main part of it really is the uterus, which is your womb, and girls undergo a whole lot of hormonal change that bring about cycles, and these are what we call the periods, where every month the girl has a bleed, and she bleeds to shed the lining of the womb. If a girl falls pregnant, that lining develops to support a baby, and it isn't shed. But until she falls pregnant, every month the body goes through cyclic changes. The other things that occur is also you develop hair in other areas like under the arms, also down below in the groin region, and that usually is in a triangular shape. And these are just changes that occur as part of the whole thing to reproduce and to have children.
What about the changes that guys have?
Well, guys are slightly different. You see, the hair side is different. Guys do the opposite. They start getting receding hairline, so they get less scalp hair, but they get more body hair. So you find they start getting beards, and guys get like baby fluff over here, and they have to start shaving. They also get more chest hairs, and also generally the body hair is more. You notice like guys have more hairy arms, and their legs are more hairy. And then your general build is obviously different to girls. Your hands get more square, your shoulders are broader, and generally your muscular development is stronger. In the genital area, the guy's penis grows bigger in terms of width and in length. And the testes, they get also bigger, and they're actually glands in the sac. And their function is to produce sperm, which are like little tadpoles, and they, during intercourse, if they happen to fertilize the egg, that's how the baby develops. Okay. The other minor things that do occur, but a bit embarrassing really, is that it affects your voice as well. And the hormones also change your larynx in the way it develops, and of course your voice from a very high-pitched squeaky starts getting broken, and then it becomes gruffy.
Well, Doctor, thank you for shedding some light on this very interesting subject. Thank you for giving off your time.
Thanks.
Okay guys, we've seen the insert on physical changes and that's great. But I know that personally when I see a lovely girl, her pretty hair is not all that I notice. Okay? And I'm sure when the girls look at a guy, his nice face is also not the only thing they see. So, in other words, we have these emotional urges that we get during puberty as well as the physical changes. John, you're the expert. What do we do with these urges?
First of all, the sexual urges are completely normal. I had one fella come up to me at a school recently and he thought, you know, he was dying. I have these sexual urges. It is part of growing up. Now, the thing is, you don't act on every urge you have. Some of you, you know, your little brother or sister comes in and does something in your room. You have the urge to kill him. You don't act on that.
Sure.
And the same thing with sexual urges. They're going to come and go. But you don't act on every sexual urge you have.
John, I'd actually like to ask you something. Say, for instance, right, I'm going out with this guy, and we're going to the movies, and we get friendly, and we have all these urges, so we hold hands, etc., etc. Where do you draw the line between what's petting and what actually becomes part of the sexual act, even though it, you know, that it's not that actual act,
leading on
but
to something.
it's leading on to it.
Well, now I'm not going to give you a this is the way you do it, this is the way you don't. You know, 10 easy steps. I will say this. Someone mentioned the law of diminishing returns. In other words, at first when you hold your girlfriend's hand, oh great, this is the greatest thing in the world. And then pretty soon you get tired of that, and then it's kissing, and then French kissing. And, you know, in other words, after a while, the more familiar you are with doing something, the less excitement you get out of it.
Becomes second nature.
Right. So what I tell people is when you're dating and you're interested in this person, you need to sit down together and lay out some guidelines.
Some ground rules.
So what happens if you're in a situation with a guy and you're kissing or whatever you're doing, and you get to the stage where, right, this is your limit, this is as far as you want to go, and the guy says, no, you're a tease, you're leading me on, you know?
You may have to sit down and say, hey, then maybe I am a tease and I'm going to pull way back. In other words, you have to sit down with him and let him know very clearly that this is as far as you're going to go. Now, I have to turn it around because I'm finding that girls are just as upfront as the guys when it comes to sexual pressure in a date.
I think that brings up the important point that a guy's and a girl's attitude towards sex differs so much. And they look at the whole issue of sexuality in such a different light. But why is that, John? Because we're both influenced by the same things, guys and girls.
I don't think so.
It's almost as if I feel if you had to ask me if I had an opportunity to do it with a girl, then I'd have to say yes. I'd feel pressured to say yes because any other guy would.
Why is that, John?
But that's not how...
When you say do it, you're meaning have sex.
Have
okay.
sex.
Get the ground rules laid out here. All right. First of all, guys and girls are different. Besides the looks, but also emotional makeups. And there's a lot of studies that seem to prove that. But what I'm finding is that guys are very physically oriented. Oh man, great body, that hair, you know, those lips. Where a girl is looking at it as, you know, I want security.
A commitment from
I want a commitment. I want to feel comfortable in this relationship.
So is that why girls and guys have different ideas about what the function of sex? That, you know, I heard that boys use love for sex and girls use sex to get love. And I think that's very true.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think many girls, they give into it. They actually have sex with a guy because they want to be accepted. They want to be loved. And that's where they are wrong.
There are some great illustrations that I've come across recently since being in this country is that, you know, with the families, spending so much time trying to make enough rand to keep the family going, the kids are kind of put off to the side. They say that the average child spends, or the adult spends about 11 minutes a week speaking with his child.
Goodness.
So what that means then is this kid is looking for attention. I'm not getting it from my family. I better get it from my boyfriend. And then the boyfriend is saying, well, if you want to keep dating me, you're going to have to put out, and usually that's sexually.
Yeah.
And
bit of a vicious circle.
Yes.
It is, so surely that's us people are mistaking the need to be touched, the need to be held, and the physical need with a sexual need. That in order to become intimate with someone, you don't necessarily have to have a sexual kind of relationship.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that sex does not equal love.
Right.
Love does not equal sex.
Yeah. And unfortunately, people have confused that, and I think that is why we have such a high amount of sexual promiscuity, especially in teenagers. And tell us some about your experiences. I mean, we're speaking around the country, and surely a lot of people have come to you. What is the general opinion, the attitudes that you are receiving from the kids?
Well, number one is that from kids, I'm seeing that they're getting involved sexually because the parents aren't giving them attention.
Right.
Number two, they're getting involved sexually because it's almost a rebellious. You're in the teenage years. This is the rebellion year.
Experimenting. You want to find out.
You know, and
it's like a learning process. It has to get the experience.
I've been living under my parents' domain, their values, their morals, my religion's values and morals. I don't know if I really follow that. And you have a tremendous problem there.
I'm going to break out and experiment for themselves.
Right. And there's been some interesting studies also done. I mean, there's also, I'm seeing it also firsthand, but especially being in South Africa, people, families do not want to talk about sex.
Much more conservative.
And probably the neatest thing about me speaking in the school system has been, when I speak in the school, I hear from the parents, well, my son came home and for the last 3 nights, all we've talked about at dinner is sex. You know? And what we're finding is that when a family openly discusses sex with their teenagers, there is a less chance that that child will become sexually involved.
Because I think it's because that child won't be as curious as before.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, don't you think that perhaps teenagers aren't really in touch with their own feelings or their own responses towards sexuality? They go with what the hype is. They go with what everybody else is saying and what they're expected to say. Peer pressure, exactly.
Their parents aren't giving the information, so I'm going to go to my friends, Madonna, the movies, Basic Instinct. What do you guys know about that?
I heard it from a friend.
But then again, that is essentially deceptive, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is really just talk. These people say, oh, well, this is what I did and this is what, you know. And probably 50% of them actually are really...
It seems like everybody's doing it.
That's the image.
So now you guys have heard some of our views. So let's go out and find out what your opinions are.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you.
I don't believe in premarital sex at all.
I feel sex, okay, because I'm a woman. I guess they say women should have sex after marriage.
New Year's Eve, you drink on the beach, or you have a long relationship and it's planned. And I think you have to plan it. I don't think it can be a spontaneous thing.
If you're ready, if you feel that you're ready, I think it's fine if you're in love with your boyfriend.
Okay, I think sex is okay at any age, as long as you feel you're ready for it emotionally, physically, and as long as you love someone. I don't think you should have sex with someone at a young age if you don't feel love for them or, you know, feel that they're going to break up with you and then you're going to feel hurt.
I believe that sex is being created by God and should be ordained in a marriage situation.
Sex should be something that's very sacred and something that's very special when you do it for the first time.
If I like the girl and she likes me and we've discussed it and planned for it, then obviously I'll have sex with her, but if we haven't, then I'm not going to just go sleep with her.
Do you think you guys are pretty average in your attitude?
Yes. Most dogs think like this. If the girl's ready to do it, then the dog's not going to say no. You've never seen an dog say no.
I remember when I was in high school, and peer pressure was the big thing in my years. It's the same thing in your years.
Of course,
And I was on the football team. Dave Volk was also on the football team. He was the captain of the football team. And I thought, if I could be like Dave Volk, good looking, dated all the cheerleaders, most popular guy in school, not real intelligent, but you can't have everything. And we'd be in the locker room after practice, and there's Dave. Oh, young, you should have seen me. I was with Julie last night, pumping away. The sex was unbelievable. Next day after practice. Oh, you guys, I was with Nancy last night. The sex was fantastic. I figured it out. Over the 4 years I was in high school, Dave went to bed with every single girl in my hometown.
Goodness me.
Saw Dave at my high school reunion. I said, Dave, how'd you do it? You slept with all those women, never got anyone pregnant, never got a sexually transmitted disease. He pulled me off to the side, and this is what he said. He said, Young, I was still a virgin when I finished high school. I said, what? You know, I was captain of the football team, dating some of the cheerleaders. Everybody thought I was sleeping around. No way. You know, big talk, no action. And in this case, it's great. You know, as I'm talking to some of the high schools, as I talk to especially the guys, it sounds like they're sleeping with everything that walks. That is not true. You know, don't fall for the line that everybody's doing it. It's just not true.
Well, Dave, you know, I've been going out with my boyfriend for about 4 years now. And in a relationship that long, I really do feel emotionally ready to go on ahead with a sexual relationship.
A lot of people feel that. You've been 4 years. A lot of people say they've been dating their partner for 8 hours. They're ready to go on further. What I'm finding in my practice is that, first of all, 50% of all engagements never carry on to marriage. So just because you have a serious relationship or an engagement does not mean you're going to end up in marriage. Number two is when a person gets involved sexually, quite often it ruins the relationship, because instead of having a time where you're getting together on the date talking, what you do is you forget the talking and you go right to the physical aspect, to the sex. And I have talked to more people and they've said it has ruined our relationship. The other thing is, once you get involved sexually, you've given everything you've got, the most intimate parts of you, yourself to that person. And if that relationship breaks up, it is extremely difficult to get over that. I was recently talking to a girl in Pretoria, and she broke up with her boyfriend 2 years ago, and they were involved sexually. And today, she says, I still can't get over that, and it's hard for me to develop relationships. So I think people need to look at that very carefully.
So, John, you're saying basically that we should consider all the options.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure that girls are probably just as prone to lust as what guys are. You know, and that's probably the reason why they get into sexual relationships too soon. So shouldn't we be thinking about, you know, just other ways within in a relationship possibly to sort of deal with feelings of lust, or rather just sexual urges?
Well, yes, and we're going to be dealing with that in a later program. In fact, the next program we're going to be dealing with is, you know, safe sex, truth or fiction, sexually transmitted diseases.
Great.
There's more sexually transmitted diseases out there than just AIDS. In fact, some people said there's about 51 sexually transmitted diseases out there.
John, what about the one-off sexual experience? You're at the discotheque, the lights are going, and you meet this really nice girl, and things just, one thing leads to another, and it sort of happens, as you hear so much.
The one night stand.
What you should do, the one night stand, what you do about that, and how do you combat that, how do you stop it?
It's interesting, as I'm talking to people, they say, well, we didn't mean to get involved sexually, it just happened.
I was drunk.
I was drunk, right.
Drunk.
This is where you need to make decisions before you even accept that date as to where you stand sexually. That is not something that you're going to decide in the back seat of your Mini. That has to be decided way before the date, so that when a person is touching you in a certain way, you really hold it, you know, not going to go any further than that.
Yeah, but if you don't have time to discuss it before and you're curious about it and that happens, somebody starts touching you, what's to stop you from just allowing it to happen?
This is where you have to take control. Use your mind. Use your mind.
Use your mind, and that's probably the crux of the matter. Hey, John, thanks very much for talking to us. It's been a really informative discussion. Hey, guys, I know I've learned a lot. Thanks very much for coming to the studio, John. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.